yote. Namba ya kwanza, itaajiri vijana zaidi ya 15,000. Jambo la pili, tutakuwa na suppliers, wale wafanyabiashara wa hapa, wafanyabiashara wa simiti, wafanyabiashara wa chuma, wafanyabiashara ya mawe, wafanyabiashara wa kware, wafanyabiashara wa kokoto. Hiyo biashara zote quarries ambazo ziko hapa waanze kujipanga, kwa sababu wao ndio watasupply zile material ambayo itatumika katika hii barabara. Jambo la tatu, wale wote ambao wanaishi katika sehemu hii pia, wakati barabara hii inajengwa, kutakuwa na biashara ya aina tofauti tofauti, na tumehakikisha ya kwamba katika barabara hii kutakuwa hapa na interchange ya kupeleka watu kwenda why do we have to have a loudspeaker, you know, interchange ya kwenda hapa Gilgil. Kutakuwa na interchange viaduct actually pale Nakuru, na tutahakikisha kwamba zile barabara ambazo ni za sehemu hii, kama moja ya kutoka mahali inaitwa Kanyariri pale kwenda Gilgil, tutatengeneza hiyo barabara iwe ni barabara mbadala, you know, alternative route wakati hii barabara inajengwa. Pia tutaangalia barabara ingine, kuna barabara ingine hapa Kikopei inaenda ikielekea Naivasha, pia hiyo tutaangalia, ndio tuhakikisha kwamba hiyo sehemu yote pia inashughuliwa barabara za hapa. So there is already a huge support to the community here, the business people here, those who will be supplying sand, those who will be supplying concrete, those who will be supplying stones, those who will be supplying the quarries around here, the people who are doing business, the suppliers of cement, the suppliers of steel. All those people will be in the equation as we develop this road. It is a road where I have been assured by the contractors 60% at the minimum of all procurement will be done in Kenya. So the local content of 40% will actually move from 40% to 60% to make sure that Kenya benefits as this road. And many communities and citizens living along this road benefit as this road is being built.
You have also announced the tarmacking of 20,000 kilometers.
28,000.
28,000 kilometers of road network.
Yes.
But the big question in Kenyans' minds is the financing of this tarmacking, owing to the debt question that obviously keeps ringing in our mind. What is your plan generally in terms of financing the construction of these roads?
Just for the record, the road you see here, we're not paying a single coin. This road is funded by PPP, private-public partnership, right? The 2,500 kilometers of tarmac that I have said, highway, the 2,500 kilometers of highway will be funded again by the same private-public partnership, innovative financing. The rest of the roads in Kenya, I have already told the people of Kenya, the law was changed. I signed it last week into law that we're going to have a national infrastructure fund. The National Infrastructure Fund is going to get funding from our budget, from proceeds of privatization, from royalties of our natural resources, and leveraging on that from the private sector. So we are looking at a new way of financing that does not lead Kenya into more borrowing, that does not lead Kenya into more taxes, but is innovative, using the assets that we already have, using the resources that we already have. We can transform, we can use those resources to raise additional funding, to securitize, to leverage on our capital markets, to leverage on those resources to raise additional funding from the private sector. We have a lot of resources in the private sector, but unless you have an instrument, a mechanism, an agile, you know, tool for you to use in leveraging the private sector, you will not be able to achieve the resources that will transform this country. And that is why I am very clear in my mind, and I want to tell the good people of Kenya, the people who have given me an opportunity to be president and to lead this nation, I want to assure them that the 5 trillion plan by next year, 2026, I already have a plan on how we are going to raise half that amount, 2.5 trillion, by next year. And then the balance in the coming year, and run all these projects, because this is what, ambition is all about. This is what big thinking is all about. This is about what creativity and innovation is all about. This is what other countries have done. They haven't done any miracles. They've just organized their resources. They've organized themselves. They've thought better. They have planned smarter. And that is how Kenya is going to move forward. When I said we are going to do affordable housing, markets and hostels, many people did not believe it. Today, we have signed contracts of 600 billion. In this county alone of Nakuru, we have 40 billion shillings. In the county of Nakuru, 22,000 housing units are being built, 25 markets are being built, hostels for 8,000 students are being built in Nakuru County. If you go to Gilgil here, I was in one of the towns here in Gilgil 2 weeks ago to start a market. That is what is going on around Kenya. And that is how we are going to build this. And let me tell you, the challenge we have always had is thinking small, making peace with mediocrity, and making average what is the norm and acceptable. We must get rid of that. We must think bigger, we must plan smarter, and we must take the country to the
Let me
next
follow
level.
up that question very quickly before Nsare comes in. And particularly, I want you to go to the details of the PPP, because the site of CRBC, for example, in this site, evokes those emotions of, is this another debt trap? So that you explain what is the model inside.
I have told you there is no government is not borrowing money. This money is being invested by private sector people. CRBC themselves are putting in their own money. This is going to be a toll road where they will recover their money slowly, the same way we built the expressway. The expressways today is the best thing we have done in Kenya. It has made the travel from Jomo Kenyatta, which was sometimes 2-3 hours, now it is a 15-minute journey. And we didn't have to spend any money as government of Kenya. That is how globally, that is how world-class infrastructure is delivered by countries around the world. Kenya is not going to be an exception.
Mheshimiwa Rais, kufuatilia swala hilo umezungumzia zile ada ambazo zitakuwa zinatozwa watumiaji wa barabara hii, na mara nyingi mtu atajiuliza labda haya matozo serikali imeweka mikakati ipi kuhakikisha matozo hayo yatakuwa nafuu?
Tayari wananchi wengi wanatumia pesa nyingi katika hizi barabara. Kukiwa na jam hapa, pesa mabilioni inachomwa kwa sababu ya magari ambayo yako hapa, masaa mengi ambayo watu wanatumia, watu wengine wanalala barabarani. Hiyo yote ukiweka kwenye mizani ya pesa ambayo tungeokoa kama hii barabara ingekuwa inapitika, itazidi hata ile ada ambayo itakuwa inalipishwa hapa. Na hiyo ada itakuwa sensitive. Magari kwa mfano ya abiria, ada yake itakuwa chini. Magari ya mizigo ndio watalipa zaidi. Na hiyo ni desturi ama mpango inayoendelea duniani kote. Mahali popote unaona barabara nzuri, highways zimejengwa, they are always built on account of private-public partnerships, on the basis of tolling roads, because a road is not a cheap thing. A road is a very important artery and it stimulates the economy, and therefore we have to find a way of financing it.
Mheshimiwa, asante sana kwa jibu hilo, na nizungumzie swala lingine ambalo linajitokeza, labda kuna mpango wa fidia kwa wale labda wataathirika katika mradi huu?
Barabara tayari tuko na, we have already a corridor, so there will be no need to move anybody from anywhere, so that does not arise.
Your Excellency, you revealed part of your grand plan again when you were in Uganda, and it's good you mentioned about this corridor because it's very important. But you also mentioned about the extension of the SGR all
Correct.
the way to Malaba. Sometimes there have been a sense of hesitation, particularly from the other side, in terms of starting the SGR. What agreement do you have, particularly with the government of Uganda, to ensure that it doesn't just stall at Malaba, it completes the corridor?
For your information, I have had a conversation with President Museveni. The government of Uganda is 100% aligned to what we are doing here in Kenya. The extension of the road, dualling of this road to Malaba, already has set the stage for it. When it gets to Malaba, it should go all the way to the border with DRC. We have agreed with President Museveni that as we extend the railway from Naivasha here, and for your information, that exercise is beginning in January.
Next year?
Yes. In another 2 months, I will be back here because we are already working on how to finance that facility. It will go to Kisumu and go to Malaba. That railway is now going to join what already Uganda have procured on their side, the SGR from Malaba to the border of DRC. So that railway is going to be one transport corridor that's going to open up Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan, Burundi, Rwanda, and DRC. And we are already aligned. A third artery that we are going to build also in consultation with the government of Uganda next year is to extend the pipeline from Eldoret to Malaba to Kampala and again to the border with DRC. That has already been agreed because unless and until we have this infrastructure, our region will continue to lag behind. And Kenya is the catalyst. Once we do it in Kenya, we justify then the rest of the journey into Uganda and into the rest of the East African region.
I want to follow up with that question, Your Excellency. The SGR from Nairobi to Naivasha sometimes has been criticized because of the low take-up of cargo and sometimes underutilization. What lessons has government learned to ensure that as we extend the SGR all the way to Malaba, it doesn't become another story of low take-up of cargo and underutilization?
Precisely, because the rail ended up in Naivasha, while most of the cargo go all the way to the hinterland of East Africa. That is why the justification we have for extending this road to Malaba to make sense of it, so that anybody who is transporting, instead of having to clear goods twice, you transport the goods from Mombasa to Naivasha, and then you have to make another arrangement from Naivasha, either by road now to Kampala or to the rest of the country. Now it will be a one-way. And we have done the justification for this road, using the traffic, using the cargo that we have that goes to the hinterland of the East African community. And for your information, sometimes when you develop the infrastructure, it stimulates the business. So sometimes it's a question of chicken and egg. If you build the road, business comes. If business is there, it justifies the road. So what do you do first? Do you develop the business first or do you develop the road first? We have decided that by developing the road, we use the cargo that is there, but then we stimulate additional cargo once the rail has been built.
Mheshimiwa Rais, labda serikali ina mpango upi haswa? Kuna takriban 30% ya barabara ambazo zinahitaji kukarabatiwa humu nchini, si eneo hili tu, katika maeneo mengine. Labda serikali ina mpango upi kuhakikisha zinakarabatiwa?
Tayari tuko na contractors wale wote kwa miaka miwili walikuwa wametoka kwenye contractors wengi walitoka barabarani 2021 2022. Hawa contractors wote tumewarudisha barabarani, na tuko na awamu ya pili. Tumelipa 80%, tunalipa 20% kabla ya Disemba. Tuko na program ingine ambayo itatupatia another 120 billion next year, yenye itasukuma ujenzi wa hizo barabara zote mpaka zikamilike by 2027. Hizo barabara zote ambazo kwa sasa zimeanzishwa, lakini vile vile kupitia kwa program ya National Infrastructure Fund, tayari nimeambia wizara wafanya mapping ya kilomita zingine 28,000 ambazo tutaanza next year, wakati tume roll into action National Infrastructure Fund. So from next year utaona Wakenya wataona barabara mpya zikitangazwa kupitia kwa ile program nao tutakuwa nayo na hazina tutakuwa nayo maalum ya National Infrastructure Fund, kwa sababu pale nyuma hatukujipanga vizuri, hatukuwa na innovation ambayo inaweza kutusaidia kutengeneza haya mabarabara. Haiwezekani tutengeneze barabara tukitumia budget yetu peke yake. Haiwezekani tutengeneze barabara kwa kukopa pesa. Haiwezekani tujenge barabara kwa kuongeza ushuru. Lazima tuwe na mbinu na fikra mpya ambayo tutatumia pesa zetu, na pia tuchanganye hiyo pesa na pesa ya private sector. Watu wa private sector wengi wako tayari kushirikiana na serikali tukiwa na mpango, na ndio sababu tumetengeneza bank ama fund ya National Infrastructure Fund.
Na Mheshimiwa Rais, umezungumzia swala hilo kwa undani zaidi, lakini tunafahamu fika mara nyingi wakandarasi unapata kwamba wameanzisha mradi wanachelewa kukamilisha. Labda ni mikakati ipi imewekwa kuhakikisha yule mwanakandarasi ambaye amepewa hiyo kazi anaitamatisha na anakuwa accountable?
Unajua, ukijenga barabara kutumia budget ya serikali, serikali isipolipa yule mwanakandarasi anasimama kwa sababu hana mpango mwingine. Tumebadilisha sasa kwamba ujenzi wa barabara utakuwa ni serikali inachangia kiasi, lakini yule pia ambaye anajenga hiyo barabara kupitia kwa private public partnership pia na yeye atachangia sehemu. Jambo la kwanza. Jambo la pili, kupitia kwa program ya National Infrastructure Fund, ile pesa tulio nayo kama ni 20% ya ile barabara tutaifanya, kwa sababu sasa tutakuwa na hazina which is agile. Sasa kupitia kwa ile hazina tuta leverage pesa kutoka private sector, ndio contractor awe na pesa ya kutosha mpaka hiyo barabara ikamilike. So we will have not only the resources to start the road, but under the National Infrastructure Fund we will have clarity on the start and the finish of every infrastructure that we develop, whether it is a road, whether it is an electricity line, whether it is a dam. We will have sight, because we will use our own resources to leverage resources from the private sector to make sure that we have resources to start and finish every project. In the past, when you use resources only from your budget, when the resources from the budget is limited, then that is how roads stall, that is how dams stall. But now that we are leveraging both public resources and private sector resources and bringing private sector into the equation, the discipline of the private sector, the resources from the private sector will seal the loopholes that have existed and that have made road construction take many years, and that have made projects in the past to stall, whether they are dams or roads or whatever other pieces of infrastructure we have been developing.
All right. Your Excellency, infrastructure is a very big bit, like you say, in terms of, particularly when you talk about regional trade, but it is just one bit when it comes to making it effective. The question is, as a region, how are you going to deal with the issues of corruption at border points, inefficiency in customs, and those problems of non-tariff barriers that have been inhibiting trade, particularly in this region?
You have said it correctly, that infrastructure is not the only thing. That is why I said in my plan that we need to develop a high level of professional human capital that will assist us in dealing with inefficiencies, that will work with us using technology. Because if you saw my plan, I have said we're not only going to develop high quality infrastructure, high quality human capital, we're going to leverage on technology, we're going to leverage on AI, we're going to digitize, and we are going to use technology to fight corruption, to eliminate inefficiency, to eliminate dark corners. Because once the whole processes of government, and that's what I have done for the last 3 years, digitize all government services so that we eliminate transactions in cash, we eliminate subjective judgments by individuals, We are now currently going on to e-procurement so that government procurement is in the open. There is no tender in the dark. There is no corruption. There is no favoritism. There is no underhand dealings. That is how we are going to take this country. And that is why in my plan I said human capital is going to be a very big part of my plan. Digitization is going to be a very big part. Leveraging on technology, bringing on board AI is going to be a very big part of technology. But that's not also just what is enough. I have also said that we also are impeded sometimes by matters to do with energy. How much energy do we have? We have said we're going to develop another 10,000 megawatts of energy. We have the instruments to do it. We have been doing it in terms of public-private partnership, leveraging on power purchase agreements. We need to think bigger. And finally, I have also said that we have to be a net exporter of goods, services, and products from Kenya. As we talk today, on one thing alone, on food, we are importing 500 billion. We first need to plug that. And that is why I'm insisting that we need to develop water harvesting, water storage infrastructure, dams, micro dams, mega dams, mini dams, to make sure that we grow enough food and we become a net exporter of many things, because we already have the markets. We have a market in Europe, which was open to us last year, a market of 450 million people, 26 countries. We have a market in the United States. We have a market in China, and we have the biggest market in Africa, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. We must leverage on those markets to drive our economy, to drive the transformation of our agriculture, and combine all the things I have told you, from agricultural transformation to increase our exports, from human capital development, to make sure that we leverage on technology, to be efficient, to be effective, to reduce corruption, making sure that we have transport and logistics, our roads infrastructure, highway infrastructure, seaport infrastructure. I have told you that next year we're going to advertise for the construction of a new airport at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, making sure that we have energy to be able to drive new technology. That power is going to power county aggregation and industrial parks, all our markets, all our special economic zones, all our export economic zones, to make sure that our manufacturing, our industrialization moves to the next level. Because if we do not manufacture, if we do not add value, we will not create jobs, and we will continue to have a challenge of young people without jobs in our country. That is why, put together, the plan I have committed to the people of Kenya is to make sure that we take Kenya to the next level. And let me say one more thing. Many people think that this plan is about the next election. Many people think this plan is going to start in 2028, maybe 2029. I want to tell you, this plan started today with this road. You will be seeing, in January, we will start the railway. In January, February, we will launch the Kiambu Northern Bypass, the road from junction of Machakos going all the way to Emali. We will begin to roll out the highway projects next year. We will begin to roll out our dam infrastructure next year. We will begin to roll out our interventions in education next year. This is not about the next election. This is about the next generation. And that focus, the long-term planning, making sure that in the next 30 years, when I will be 90, I want this country to be a first world country.
All right. Your Excellency, I want to follow up very quickly because we are almost winding up. You mentioned about the co-owning of the Kenya pipeline with Uganda. Again, also private investors are allowed in. You've had your critics accuse you of auctioning national strategic assets. How do you respond?
You know, those people are small thinkers. You know, the pipeline is not going to leave Kenya. The pipeline is a Kenyan asset, but we can leverage on that asset to do much more than the pipeline. The pipeline is already doing a service for us. You know, the pipeline is, if you compare the dividends that we get from having the pipeline, they are way smaller to the benefits we can get by leveraging on that asset to build new assets. The resources I am talking about that will be used for development of infrastructure will come from assets like the Kenya pipeline. And Uganda is going to pay for it. Private sector is going to pay for it. Ordinary Kenyans are going to own part of it. What, don't you want to own a piece of Kenya pipeline? Every Kenyan wants to own a piece of Kenya pipeline. They will be making money to the extent of the ownership they make. But it will free resources for government of Kenya to develop other assets. We have an asset in Kenya pipeline, but we can use the asset we have in Kenya pipeline to develop another 3-4 assets as big as Kenya pipeline. That is the innovation. That is the broad, bigger thinking that needs to go into this.
Mheshimiwa Rais, umezungumzia hilo swala kwa kina, na hivi sasa tunapozungumza katika uongozi kamilifu.
I have to go.
Ndio tunakamilisha Mheshimiwa Rais. Katika uongozi kamilifu lazima kuna wale wanaunga mkono na kuna wale ambao wanapinga miradi mbalimbali. Labda viongozi ambao wako katika mradi huu na miradi mingine, ungependa kushirikiana nao kivipi, au mpango upi uko nao katika kufanikisha miradi kama hii?
Umesema vizuri.
Ndio.
Kuna wale wanaunga mkono.
Ndio.
Kuna wale wako na maoni tofauti. Na kuna wale wanapinga. Shida niliyoko nayo ni kwamba wale ambao wako sasa hawana maoni tofauti, ni wakupinga. You know? Wanapinga SHA, hawana maoni tofauti. Wanasema turudi ile ya NHIF ambayo ilikuwa na watu milioni 7. Tumefikisha watu milioni 27. Wanasema turudi ile ya zamani. Wanapinga funding model. Wanasema turudi ile ilikuwa imefunga universities zetu karibu 20 ilikuwa bankrupt. Wanasema turudi huko. Wanapinga barabara kama hii. So mimi ningependa kusema ni Kenya ni nchi ya demokrasia. Kama William Ruto, serikali ya broad based, iko na sera ya kujenga barabara, ya kujenga reli, ya kubadilisha mfumo wa elimu, ya kuweka new funding model, ya kupunguza gharama ya production, kupunguza gharama ya fertilizer, ya kuwa na universal health coverage. Tafadhali tafuta sera mbadala, uzia wa Kenya. Lakini hawa ambao tuko nao sasa hawana sera mbadala, hawana mpango mbadala, hawana agenda mbadala, wanapinga. Hapo sasa ndio Kenya inarudi nyuma. We need a brand of leadership that looks at a plan, and sometimes you must admit, if a plan is good, even if you are in a different formation, you should have the fortitude and the courage to say this is a good plan. And if it is not a good plan, propose an alternative plan. But don't just oppose. The problem we have is that we have people today, if you listen to them, what are they talking about? One term. Kasongo must go. What is Kasongo? One term must go. What is it about? It's about William Ruto. It's about a person. It's about the next election. You know, that is how we fail as a nation. If the whole of your political psyche is about a person, is about the next election, where are the people of Kenya? Where is the next generation? I would want to persuade colleagues, leaders like myself, in other formations, please, this is our country. Let us make it better. If you think my plan is good, develop a better one and tell the people of Kenya. Let us avoid the politics of ethnicity. Let us avoid the politics of personality cults. Let us avoid the politics of division and negativity. This is our country. We will either rise or sink together. So don't think that if you sink William Ruto or if you sink the next guy, you will be anywhere. Let us be positive about Kenya. Even if you don't like the next guy, think about your country. And therefore, I'm asking leaders, and I am prepared, I am willing to work with leaders from across the divide. I have said, I have discussed the plan I have with members of parliament, governors, citizens from across the political divide. I have discussed this plan with the former prime minister. I have discussed this plan with the former president. I have discussed this plan with whoever is willing to listen to what I have to say. And it is a plan that I am very passionate about because I have the opportunity to be the leader of our nation today, and I do not want to let the people of Kenya down. And for your information, I have set a very high bar for myself. Why? Because I am building on a foundation that has been set by others. President Jomo Kenyatta set the foundation of the liberation of our country. President Moi came and did the best he could. President Kibaki did a foundation on infrastructure. My friend President Uhuru made a huge contribution. But I have a unique opportunity. Why? Unlike my predecessors, I am a younger person. I am a very educated person. I have the relevant experience. I have no choice but to do better. And I am not taking this for granted. I know it is a moment in history that I have, and I want to do the very best for my nation.
Okay, can you quickly react, probably,
Thank you very much.
Very quickly, to the by-elections yesterday? Did the by-elections outcome bail you out?
The by-elections yesterday were a very big statement. Very big statement coming from the people of Kenya. That the people of Kenya are focused on the team that has an agenda, that has a plan, and that has a vision for Kenya. I have often tried to persuade the people on the other side that rhetoric, sloganeering, one time sijui Kasongo and all those, will not amount to a plan where people of Kenya can buy. The people of Kenya are very intelligent people. They can make a difference between the team with a plan and the team without. And yesterday, they sent a very powerful message. And I hope the people on the other side are listening. They sent a very powerful message that they are not interested in ethnicity. They are not interested in division. They are not interested in rhetoric. They are not interested in sloganeering. They want to see a credible plan, a team that has an agenda for the people of Kenya. And the outcome of that election is a big statement to everybody.
Naam, Mheshimiwa, shukran sana kwa kutupa fursa kuzungumza nawe na vilevile watazamaji pia kufuatilia na kufahamu ajenda yako ya miundo msingi na vilevile maendeleo ya taifa.
Na mimi nawashukuru Wakenya wote. Haingewezekana tufike hapa bila ya support ya Wakenya. Kuna wale wananiunga mkono, kuna wale wananikosoa kwa sababu wanataka nifanye bora zaidi. Hawa wote mimi nawashukuru kwa sababu hivyo ndivyo tutajenga taifa letu la Kenya. It is not always that people may agree with you 100%. Some, criticize me out of them wanting me to do better. And I appreciate that. They make my thinking, they make my planning better. They point out some of the gaps that are there. And I appreciate that. All I am asking is, even in the whole of this trajectory, even as we support, even as we criticize, let us focus on the good, the interest of the people of Kenya and the future generations that are going to come.
Shukran sana. Mtazamaji, huyu amekuwa Mheshimiwa Rais William Ruto akizungumzia miradi ya maendeleo na vilevile amezungumzia mradi huu ambao unazinduliwa siku ya leo, ujenzi kwanza wa barabara ya Rironi-Nakuru-Mau Summit kwa ukamilifu ili kuhakikisha maendeleo yanawafikia wote ambao wanatumia barabara hii. Mtazamaji, mahojiano ya kipekee yamefanikishwa na TV47 na vilevile KBC. Wanakwetu wananiita Joashon Sare. Mwenzangu,
my name is John Jacob Kiri. Have yourself a fantastic day. Thank you. Thank you.